Okay, so next I'd like to welcome to this stage the Innovation Sector Head of Capital Formation at the Toronto Stock Exchange, who is here to talk to us about the evolution of cannabis in public markets. So please welcome Dani Lipkin.
Thanks, and thanks everyone for sticking around. I'll try and shorten this up a bit, knowing that there's fire alarms, everything going off like crazy, and that we're a bit behind schedule. So, first thing I want to say is thank you for everyone for having me here today. I think I want to take a moment by saying how great it was to listen to a panel of women in cannabis earlier today. As this is an emerging industry, it's actually really healthy and vibrant to see a panel like that going on at a conference. I come from the financial services industry. We're about 30 years behind where that's been going. So it's good to see that women are being prominently featured early on in this industry. So where are we in terms of the public markets in cannabis? So we're still 4 years into the public markets in cannabis. It was only in April 2014 that we actually had our very first listed cannabis company on the TSX Venture Exchange. There was a $40 million market cap. Today we're up to much more healthier numbers than that, and we're up to 45 issuers listed on the TSX and the TSX Venture related to the cannabis industry. It's been a growing evolution of what's been going on our marketplace, and we've been learning to adapt as that has been going along. The market has clearly evolved over the last number of years, and we're looking to see how that continues to evolve. In terms of new cannabis issuers year to date, you'll see that we're already up to 19. There's also been a healthy amount of consolidation going on in the marketplace. That was earlier this year that we saw a lot of acquisitions and consolidations, and I think that a lot of people have said maybe that is a theme that's going to continue over the next few years, that consolidation is a really important part of the piece. In terms of the market cap, as I said, it was $40 million in 2014. It's amazing to think where we are now, that $50 billion of market capitalization in cannabis issuers on the TSX and the TSX Venture Exchange. What's really important as part of this story is the ecosystem developed in Canada. So, we're very unique. We have an ecosystem that helps fund early stage company in our public markets. And that's what's really helped this industry thrive and grow. Over the course of the life of the TSX Venture and the TSX, we've actually had 650 venture companies graduate to the TSX. A lot of those are actually cannabis companies that have graduated over the last number of years. And what's even a more glaring statistic is that of this S&P TSX composite, so the biggest companies public in Canada, 20% of those have come from the venture markets. And a handful of those are actually now cannabis companies too. So you see that we have a great ecosystem that develops and supports young companies, specifically a lot in the cannabis space, and helps them grow and mature over time. So, we hope to continue to see that trend over the next number of years. And if we look at the capital raise, this goes back to the point, year to date through September is $2 billion of capital raised on our public markets from just, under $60 million a few years ago. And what does this actually look like in terms of volume traded on our markets? Well, we've traditionally been a mining-focused exchange, and that's been the Canadian market story. 50 cents out of every dollar raised globally in the mining space is actually raised in Canada. So clearly that's been where most of the trading volume has been over the last number of years. But what you'll see is a growing trend in terms of cannabis. Early 2017, cannabis made up about 1% of our overall traded volume. So a small number. Earlier this year, and around September, there was one day where cannabis actually represented 30% of all volume traded on TSX and TSX Venture. So it's become significant. Now that is on days where there's more headlines and stories revolving around it. On average, we're seeing about 10 to 15% of overall volume traded related to the cannabis industry, but there will be, as you can see, spikes in volumes. If we actually look at the next slide, you'll kind of see that trend where there tends to be a lot more noise, you're going to see a lot more bumps in terms of volume traded overall. So, I think this will be a continuing evolution, and we'll continue to see this number grow over the next number of years as more and more people and more companies get onto our marketplace. Remember, we have 3,000 issuers listed on the TSX and TSX Venture. So only 45 right now is related to the cannabis space. hopefully we'll see that number continue to grow, but I think we'll also see the volume trend also continue to grow. And the last thing I'd like to point out, because many of you I might have known from my previous role at TSX, I used to head up our ETF segment, and this has been an important part of the story. The world's first cannabis ETF, HMMJ, was actually listed on the TSX about 19 months ago, April of 2017. It slowly grew in terms of volume traded, but now it's seen significant growth in both volume traded and in terms of the assets under management. And why this is great is because the underlying constituents are the Canadian companies here today. And it helps grow and support all of your businesses when you have a $1 billion ETF investing in Canadian-based cannabis companies. So what was just a few $1 million 18 months ago, it's now $1 billion, though it's come off a little bit over the last few months with some of the changes in volatility. But it's still a massive part of the marketplace, and it's a huge driver. There's also other cannabis ETFs coming out, which again, just kind of help support the overall market structure. So with that, I just wanted to thank everybody for a few minutes of time. It's been great seeing the evolution of the cannabis market over the last 4 years. As I said, we're still in early days. It's 4 years. How often do you see an industry develop so quickly on the public markets? Never in my, I won't say how many years I've been alive, brief history in the world, but I think this is just the beginning of the evolution, and we're going to see a lot more to come over the coming years. So with that, I thank you for your time.